We're talking about the good things. We're talking about Quinnen Williams, who comes in from New York for a first-round pick in 2027, a second-round pick in 2026. Mozzie Smith, who is no longer a Cowboys draft day disappointment. A very, very big deal. Machine, how we feeling?
So I have a lot to say about this, so buckle up. It's the better of the 2027 picks that they sent in the first. That is a very, very important distinction. Which is a very NBA thing to do. So if you're bad or the Packers are bad, the Jets now have your best pick,
and
right?
I don't think, barring a Jordan Love catastrophe, the Packers are going to be bad.
Packers have a very high floor on their roster build for the foreseeable future. In a vacuum, trading a first and something for Quinnen Williams for any team is relatively smart. That's okay business. Whether or not it needs to be a second, we can talk about the price if you need to add another top 50 pick on top of your best of pick.
Yeah.
I don't love that. Let's talk about Quinnen Williams specifically. He was a dude that was on track to be a Chris Jones, to be a right down the next level down from Aaron Donald for the first 3 or 4 years of his career. When he played alongside Sheldon Rankins with the Jets, he had 13 sacks in a year. He had a year when he had 50 hurries, which doesn't happen from an interior pass rusher or interior run stuffer. He was the 3rd overall pick. He's elite. He's got the talents. He is a dude that can change your defense. Now, he hasn't quite been that for about 18 months. And he did request a trade out of there.
Multiple times.
Multiple times. He was not happy as a New York Jet, which is understandable.
Nobody's happy as a New York Jet.
Yeah, everybody that's in the Jets seems to get out, including the owner seems miserable as well.
You see all of Breece Hall's liked tweets yesterday? Just like,
he wanted to be a Chief so
why
bad.
Why didn't you trade Breece Hall? Like that.
Yeah.
What are the Kansas City Chiefs doing cheaping out? Love that.
He wanted to be a Chief so bad, dude. And I feel bad for him.
I would too.
It was a little squabble over whether it's a 3rd or 4th round pick, according to reports.
Just get it done.
And just get the thing done, right? But they stood pat. They said, Breece Hall, you're a Jet for the future and deal with it. Being a Jet, I cannot get into the mind of people that have played for the Jets for a couple of years. I don't know if he just has given up the last couple of years. The last 2 years have not been very impressive for Quinnen Williams. He has been a little bit overpaid. He has not lived up to his paper. He has not lived up to the 3rd overall pick. But that guy, I think, is still there. That can disrupt from the pass rush, can disrupt from run stuffing as well. All that, fine. Let's set that over here. What this trade did is it made the Osa contract look stupid.
Yeah.
It made adding Kenny Clark look stupid as a return in the Micah trade. It creates another contract situation end of next year.
When you lose a lot of leverage because you're paying that kind of money, you're paying that kind of pick capital, you're going to do the extension.
You have to.
You have to.
You've already signed, whether or not you realize it or not, you've signed a very big extension for Quinnen Williams. Yes. It's going to happen.
Right.
Because you can't sink a 1st and a 2nd round pick. You can't play all 3 of those DTs at the same time. Unless we're switching to some amazing, incredible 3-4 that I've never heard of.
Well, and that's the problem, right? Because Matt Eberflus, what's the deal with Matt Eberflus that we talked about on the show? He does what he does. What he does is a 4-man front. So I was seeing stuff floating around on Twitter yesterday, kind of sort of, fantasy booking the defensive line. It's like, well, you play these 3 guys together, and suddenly Donovan Ezraku off the edge in a 3-4. It looks great. It's not happening.
No, there's going to be 2 of those guys on the field at the time. Yeah, I mean, Osa, I think, is probably pretty safe, and then Kenny Clark and Quinnen are going to split depending on what's happening.
Well, there's an out in Kenny Clark's deal after this year where they don't keep a lot of guaranteed money. So so if he leaves, then all of a sudden one of the big drivers of this Micah deal, we got Kenny Clark. We don't do this without Kenny Clark. Yeah. You're about to do it without Kenny Clark.
Yeah, and it's so fitting that this trade happened 24 hours after I was ready to come in here and say the Cowboys season ended.
Jake Kemp wrote about it. I mean, in so many words. I think the first sentence of Jake's piece yesterday was, well, that ought about do it.
Yeah, effectively over after losing to a Cardinals team that had lost 5 in a row.
Jacoby Brissett,
they smoked you, dude. You didn't score a touchdown in the first half against the Cardinals. Your season's done. Now, I understand. You have to start building a respectable defense at some point. You have to. Like, you can't just, keep rolling this forward and, act like it's not happening. It's this pile of trash in your car that you're never going to clean out. I get that. Throwing a 1st and 2nd for what is going to be 18 months before the next contract kicks in of Quinnen Williams, not smart. Not smart. Also, it nullifies a previous 1st-round pick in Mozzie Smith. makes Osa less valuable because the snaps that he's going to play are being shrunk, and they're going to spin it as if, these guys are going to be more effective on more snaps.
Yeah.
That's not the name of the game in football. It's getting the most effective, powerful snaps out of the dollars that you spend, not getting the fewest. Like, that's not the game. Like, I wish they would just think about it completely differently. Kenny Clark, whatever his future here, got real muddy real quick. That's without factoring in, I don't know what Quinnen Williams is right now. I don't know if he has a give a damn in him anymore because he's been in a really bad situation with the Jets and he has not performed well the last 2 years. The last time he performed well was over two seasons ago.
The run stuffing's been there, to be fair. I mean,
the run stuffing's fine.
But you're not trading this for a run stuffer.
No.
You need a dude who could impact the game in all facets.
Yes.
And right now, as to your point, for the last 2 years, the pass rushing ability is very theoretical with Quinnen Williams.
Yeah, it hasn't been there. I don't know if it's a situation. I don't know if they don't have a guy next to him. I don't mind adding a player on the defensive line that can help get singles for Donovan Ezaraku and the other developing pass rushers. I think this is smart from that angle to say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to create such a good interior rush that my edge rushers are only facing ones each time.
Right, especially when you're throwing out, if you're doing the whole we're replacing Micah by committee thing, which is a joke because you're not really replacing Micah, but there's 6 guys there and all of them do something.
Yeah.
There isn't a dude out there who will roll out there you're thinking this guy cannot hang.
Right.
But yeah, winning doubles, nobody's there yet. So if nothing else, it's fun aesthetically because this team went years and years and years of just saying we don't need defensive tackles. We won't do anything in the interior.
Dude, there have been drafts where they wouldn't take the best player available because it was a DT.
Right, I know. And now they've overcorrected and they've got 3 guys who can really play in there who are all getting compensated real resources. It's a very Cowboys way to go about this.
Yeah, and your pie chart of where the money is spent is pretty quickly just going to be DT, and you're not going to be able to see the dot behind it on defense because and this is without. I'm trying the best I can not to bring up the Micah Parsons situation.
But you have to,
and all the BS that came out of it, and the money you spent following that on Osa, on Bland, on the deals you re-upped. Man, it's hard not to look at those tweets of. This is the spit out of it, right? You get a first back. You get Quinnen Williams, but you send Micah Parsons and you get a first back, and that's kind of like the end of it, right?
Yeah.
And that's not good business.
No,
it's not. It's going to come at a cost at some point. Quinnen Williams is a good player, whether or not you value defensive tackles or anybody does, to the extent that you would give up a first and second. It felt like you were bidding against yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think part of this too that's worth recalling is that the idea of the Micah picks in a vacuum. And this is the real sin of the Micah Parsons thing to me because it's the idea of once you get these picks, you can sit there and say, "Oh, we'll build through the draft." Except you have the highest paid quarterback in football who's 32 years old. There is no building in the draft. You don't have time to do that.
Right.
Invariably. And I give them credit for realizing, hey, we need to replace Micah with some kind of impact talent. Are you going to replace him with a Micah Parsons? No, you're not, right? So don't make Micah Parsons trade. And don't let your money get mad, as Jerry would like to say.
Yeah.
But they were forced to do something. And I think the idea in their heads of we have to do something with this. We have to get a guy who can tilt the field in some capacity on the defense because we can't rebuild around 33-year-old, soon to be 33-year-old Dak Prescott. Forces you down a road that you don't want to be down.
Yeah.
But the other aspect of this, too, is just the Rivers McCown wrote about this today on the site over at D Magazine. It's a really good thing, which is, when in doubt, when the Cowboys do something, you kind of have to really get inside Jerry's head and do a little psychoanalysis. And Jerry was very vulnerable about this, talking about how, a lot of fleeting mortality type stuff, saying the quiet part out loud about this thing. And what's really interesting to me about this trade, there's the football aspects, which I agree with you on, but for so long until 2025, let's say the last, I would say post-Amari Cooper trade, to get him here, not to deal him out, but to get Amari Cooper here. And that was what, 19, 20, 18? I forget the exact year.
I think it was 18.
I think it's 18. I would argue from 18 through 24, Jerry was coasting on reputation as far as Jerry Jones, and he said this too many times for this to be bullshit. Jerry Jones sees himself and will always see himself as a gambler and as a wildcat. It's why that Netflix show is branded the way it is, right? But for the last 6 years, that was not true. This is a guy who was not spending money. This is a guy who was taking no risks. This is a guy who was letting people out the door. This is a guy who's not being aggressive in contract extensions, partly to get ratings, right? The Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb stuff was great television. The dude knows how to make money. We have never, ever, ever disputed that. But Jerry Jones risk taker, Jerry Jones wildcatter, Jerry Jones oil man, that was dead and buried.
Right.
But look at 2025. It starts off with the Schottenheimer hire. And to me, I wrote about this at the time. A lot of people said this was safe. And in a sense, yeah, because Brian Schottenheimer gets this job they would never get otherwise because he knows that Jerry will pull a lot of the strings. That's how this works. But it was a really, really big risk because the fan base was growing more and more apathetic. And if Brian Schottenheimer just absolutely bombs out of the gate, suddenly it's threatening relevance, which threatens profits, which is what this whole thing is, right? The Cowboys, if you haven't figured out now, guys, we've written about it a lot at D Magazine. Maybe you haven't needed us to write about it at D Magazine. Maybe you knew this already. This is a profit-making vehicle that would like to win some football games if they can.
Yeah.
The goal isn't to win the Super Bowl. If they do, that'd be great. That'd be a good time. Jerry would love it, but it is to make money. So you hire Brian Schottenheimer, who, if this goes off the rails in a hurry, people are just checked the hell out. Jake wrote a piece a couple years ago, Jake Kemp, about the idea of Cowboys nihilism. That just like, what's the point? Why does this matter? Why does anything matter until January anymore? Well, if Brian Schottenheimer is terrible immediately, it's why is this whole season mattering? So you get Brian Schottenheimer. You get George Pickens. You trade Micah Parsons. Now you make the biggest trade for an incoming player at the highest cost in years. Say what you will. I don't think most of this is good. A lot of this is very, very bad process. But Jerry, for the first time in a while, is acting like Jerry.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because this was, look, man, 48 hours ago, as they're getting their teeth kicked in by the Arizona Cardinals and this season looks done, it's getting real boring real fast.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're making the playoffs. I don't think this is a playoff team this year. I'm not 1,000% sure. We have to see what they're going to do in the offseason. The plan very clearly is move the 27-1 so that you can get two high-impact defensive guys now. You have to re-sign George Pickens now. I would argue, given that the running back contracts are always very favorable to teams, and you just watch Rico Dowdle look really good elsewhere, probably should pay Javonte versus using draft capital elsewhere.
You can get out of like Diggs and a couple guys and create, I think, $30 million, and this saved you $17 million. If you look at Micah's deal right now over the next 2 years and what Quinnen Williams makes, you save $17 million. So you got money. The thing is, they haven't spent money. They haven't spent money, but maybe Jerry is back on his BS and back to being a living, breathing, walking ego. That needs something to happen and just give me the juice. Like let's sign somebody, let's trade something, let's do something, let's hit some headlines, and it all just feels so reactionary, man. Of
course it is, but it's interesting.
It is interesting.
It was very boring this summer watching them sign. Let's make a move for Kyer Elam and let's sign Kenneth Murray. And what busted early day 2 dude or late round 1 dude can we bring in and we'll fix him, even though you're not really going to fix him. Now they're doing things.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, there's a lot of things you can ask, but as a consumer, if you want to stick around to the Dallas Cowboys ride, at the very least, you have to buy the illusion that they want what you want, that they want this Super Bowl. Because for the last 6 years, they have not pretended that that's what they really want.
Right.
They have been very loudly screaming it in your face. This is a profit vehicle. We are the most expensive franchise on planet Earth. But now you can't, the Pickens deal, and this is what I wrote at the time, you couldn't have interpreted the George Pickens trade as anything but we're trying. You can't interpret Quinnen Williams as anything but we're trying.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a good thing. The Deron Bland extension, I wouldn't have paid him that money after the Micah Parsons deal. But they're trying.
Yeah.
And next to trying in smart ways, which we got a long way to go to get there, trying's the first step. They are trying again. That is something to be commended, even if this process is back-asswards.
I agree, and it does feel like it's for the wrong reasons. It's because you can look at an age curve and nobody lives forever. Yeah. Which is kind of what Jerry's saying, right? Is I'm not going to be around forever. I don't know what changed over the last 6, 12, 18 months.
I don't either.
Like he's had major surgeries. He's had like hip replacements and things like that have probably made him question how much longer am I going to be on this thing?
He openly talked about how he battled cancer.
Yeah, exactly. He's had major medical issues that if that didn't wake you up and go, you know what? Everyone has this moment in their life where they're like, I'm not going to live forever. Oh my God. Like, what do I do about that?
Yeah, but why this year?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't know. But again, it's interesting.
It's interesting. I think after you're going to come out of the bye They're on bye this week. They're not playing. They can't lose to anybody. They can't do any more ties. They can't hurt you anymore.
Hey.
You can just dream about Quinnen Williams getting 10 pressures in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So they're on bye. They're going to come out of that bye week with Quinnen Williams being added to the defense. DeMarvion Overshown being added to the defense, most likely. Logan Wilson being added to the defense.
Smart piece of business.
So I don't mind the Logan Wilson deal.
It's a 7 for a guy
fine.
who's a real linebacker. They have not had
totally
any of those on the field this year.
You know what? He's played in some of the shittiest defenses that football has ever rolled out there. He'll fit right in. He'll fit right in, man. I think he's a good player. No disrespect.
Go from the Bengals locker room to the Cowboys locker room. Yeah.
No disrespect. Being lost on defense, he can do that.
Yep.
But if you don't come out of there and find some balance defensively, what you just said about wanting to compete and wanting to win and needing this newfound pressure of timeliness and mortality, it's not going to matter if you're still the 28th worst defense in football.
Oh, I don't think this is fixed this year. They don't have – the secondary is brutal.
Yeah, they didn't do anything to fix
Javon Ravel's going to play at some point. I think he's the sort of dude who has a third rounder. If he's healthy, he goes late first round. That's fun. That's all well and good. A rookie corner isn't fixing this.
Yeah.
DeMarvion Overshown, even if he's healthy, and that's a big if off 2 knee surgeries, ain't fixing this. You need reinforcements of the offseason. You need to look hard in the mirror to think about whether Matt Eberflus is the guy who can do this. I'm very skeptical, but Jerry started making some noise the other day about how maybe the problem was we changed coordinators too many times. Ooh, buddy, that's the wrong conclusion you should be landing at.
Let's just lock him in for 5 more years. It's been so great. I learned my lesson.
Yes, that's the lesson to be learning. But hey, it's going to be an interesting offseason following an interesting end season. After the last several years, you could do worse. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, Quinnen Williams in a vacuum is a fine piece of business. I'm all about adding blue chip players, and I'm all about like improving whenever you need to improve and pushing when you need to push. Man, making the Osa signing look silly, the Kenny Clark trade looks silly, adding another huge number along your defensive line for a position that you wouldn't take in like the top 100 for almost a decade is so bizarre.